Welcome to DCVI Studios online tutorials for Joomla. This is Joomla 1.7. This is going to be just a general walkthrough of the administrator area. What we have is a stock installation of a Rocket themed rocket launcher. You have to be a paid member, preferably if you're a developer. Pay the developer's fee and support the project. So let's go ahead and log into our administrator area. Okay, so now we've logged in, and this is the new control panel for the default administrator template. As you can see, there are a lot of things that are the same. Nice little animation there, turns the page up. So we've got the add new article, we've got article manager, we've got our category manager, media manager, menu manager, all of the same things. User, module, extension manager, language, global, edit profile. That's so we can quickly edit our own profile. And then we have our template manager out front here. And as always, you can customize your icons and things like that with components and extensions. So one of the biggest changes that I've seen is with categories. For those of you familiar with Joomla, you understand how articles work, and categories. Ever since it was Mambo, have been the hierarchy of a section and then a category, and there was no nesting or anything like that. And here in Joomla 1.6 and 1.7, they've done away with sections, and we just have categories, and categories can be nested. They can be nested more than once or twice. They can be nested as many times as is necessary, which lends a great deal of flexibility to how we organize our content as opposed to how we might present our content through our navigation scheme. So we're just going to look at this real quick. Another nice feature here is that quick menus. You've got articles right here, you've got categories, and then your featured articles. All right there within a click, always available when you're in your categories, articles or features. So let's go ahead and create a new category. We're gonna just create a sample. And we're not going to give it an alias, and it has no parent. We're going to make this a top level. We'll allow it to be published, public. This is still the same, public, registered, and special. And then you can do the setting permissions, which is the ACL, which we'll cover in a little bit. As always, you can add a description for your category. You can add images and things like that. And at the bottom, then this is one of the new big features in 1.6 and 7, is the category permissions and having access to manage very specifically the access for all of these user groups, and then these user groups are managed elsewhere and are customized, and then they can be customized even more granularly down at the category level and even at the article level. Those are things that we'll cover in more detail in subsequent walkthroughs. So we've selected our user. We've got some basic options here. You would add an image. They've moved it from being on the left. And then your metadata. You know, it's always good to use metadata in your categories because that's food for the search engines. And then another new feature is the control of the robots on a category level here. So we're going to allow them to index and follow just because we're presuming that this is relevant. So with that, we are going to save and close, but I'd like to point out another new feature in Joomla 1.7, 1.6, 1.7 is the save and new. So you can save this one and then immediately you're opened in a new one. It saves a step, especially when you're building a site from scratch or you're working with a site that when you do updates that you're creating a lot of content that needs to be organized, as that's going on. So this can save a considerable amount of time for someone who is organized and has a handle on Joomla in general. So now we've got our sample one. So now we're going to create another category. And we're going to make it a child of sample one. We're going to leave the permissions alone. Just for the purpose of the demonstration, no metadata. We're going to save a new. And as you can see, we can just keep building it out. And we're going to go to 4. So as you can see, the limitations that were previously, somewhat inhibiting at times, have been completely removed and very much simplified and made to be far more flexible than it has ever been. So that's a short view of the new categories management in Joomla 1.7. I'd like to point out some other features while we're here in the categories view, and that is these new sets of drop downs. You can select the number of levels that you're viewing. In other words, if you're only concerned with the top 2 levels, then that's what it's going to show you. If you can view published, unpublished, archived, trashed, or all. This makes it much easier to manage your content when your unpublished items and archived items are not mixed in with your live items, which has really been an issue at times in the past, especially for larger sites that like to maintain a large archive. Obviously, you can view categories by access, and this is also applicable to articles and featured articles. So again, just like in other versions of Joomla, status, ordering column, sometimes the ordering column, these icons are not visible and all you will see is the ordering text. Don't freak out. You just click off to the side and the icons will appear, and then you will be able to adjust the numerical ordering so that you can do a large ordering all at one time. ID, all of those things are the same. Articles, again, this is for administrators, so you should be familiar with articles. Almost everything is the same. You can still filter. One of the things that is different is the move copy has been moved to the bottom. Still not sure why. It seems to be more efficient at the top. But there's always updates and improvements coming. And so you have additional, as always, you have your search feature over here, but you have some additional drop downs that you haven't had in version 1.5. And those are, again, that we saw previously, being able to view articles grouped by their status. As always, you have the categories view. A new view is the registered status. Author's always been there, and then language. All of these columns are sortable. When you make an item a featured item, it seems to be just a little bit different than a front page item. And it's still not clear to me exactly how. But so our one featured article is here. And if there were multiple articles, you see there's no icon to resort. And then we have our filters that we can view the content by. If we have, especially helpful if you have a lot of front page content. And as always, as in previous versions, multiple selections of the checkboxes allow you to do affect multiple items simultaneously, such as unpublishing, featuring, moving to the archive, checking in if an article's been checked out that you've been working on, converting items into featured, such things like that. So the menu manager has been choked down considerably, and they have added a new flyout here where you can add a menu item instead of having to go into the menu and then selecting to create the menu item. And the menu manager is the same as well. It's got a flyout, so you don't have to go into the manager to create a new menu. And then all of the other features are essentially the same. Content, again, you'll notice that the menu is a little bit shorter. You've got your article manager, again, flyout so that you can create a new article. Especially useful if you're not on the control panel page or the home page of your administrator area. Same thing for the category manager. You don't have to click into the category to create a new category. You can just hit it on the fly. And so featured articles, again, that lets you just view the featured articles, formerly known as front page items. And then you also, they move the media manager to under content, which I think makes a lot more sense. Under components, again, for experienced Joomla administrators, this should look pretty standard to you. I've already come along and installed a JCE administrator. For those of you who don't know, Joomla is great out of the box, but there are several things that can and should be done to it to make it a better and more useful set of tools. So JCE admin is one of the first ones I install. Messaging is new. It's been rebranded. It used to be the part of some tools and things like that. The news feed manager. This new feature, the redirecting manager, that's interesting. I'm not going to get too deep into any of these things today. Again, rock candy for easy to advanced styling options. The rock gallery component, which is great for displaying images in a variety of ways mixed with your content. All of these two are default installations with or they're components from Rocket Theme. And then web links manager, and again the search. Extensions. This is similar to the way 1.5 was. You've got your additional items up here, so you can install, you can update. Here's where you would come to manage, and instead of having everything separate. It's all combined into one. All of your components, your modules, your plugins, and everything. And then you use this drop down to filter, or as all you can use a textual search as well if you know the name of the item, and that can narrow it down significantly. Also, status um, and the type, whether it's site or administrator, which I like that better too. So you have more tools in one place. You've got all of your content in one place, your modules, plugins, and you have a much better set of tools to quickly filter through them and get to what you need without having to move back and forth between different parts. You can learn things about discovering extensions that have not gone through the normal installation process. And then and both of these discover and warnings, that's both new features in here. You'll notice this options button, and we'll get to that in a minute. In fact, we're going to go to content to do it. So here we have our article manager, and as part of our improved ACL and control, our article manager options are available here at the article manager. And as you can see, there are a lot of options that they have packed into a tight space, which is very convenient. Everything all in one place. So if you're looking for a setting that has to do with how your categories or your articles or things are displayed in 1.7 and you're not finding it, come to the options panel inside of your article manager. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about this, but like I said, you can see your articles, categories, how your blogs work. This are your default settings so that you don't have to reset it every single time at the menu. How your lists work, and these are all default settings that apply to categories and articles. There is a separate set of options for categories. You can implement text filters, which is a little new, and the ACL is incorporated into this, so whatever custom ACL you have created is reflected here. And I think that's the next thing that we're going to cover just briefly is again with the flyout menu to add new users, new groups, and access levels. These are new. Groups is new, and the access level is new. So just quickly look at the user manager. You can see it's right here. Looks the same. Again, with the condensed menus, so you don't have to go back and forth and go very far from where you are to work on like or related sets of things. So here are user groups, public having the least amount of permissions, super users having the most amount of permissions, and you seeing how such as a registered user is the same as a super user, but their permissions are a little different. And then as we go out, an author can have more, it's the traditional treeing out from a point. So, and you can add as many groups as you would like and arrange the permissions per group as you like. And then there's also downward filtering. So an inheritance of properties from a previous group that they're associated with. And so here we have the three traditional groups or access levels. You can create custom access levels from here, but again, that's something that we'll go into in subsequent tutorials. Well, yeah, that is the high points of an overview of Joomla 1.7.